Imagine you are like sitting behind the wheel of a high-performance car.
Okay.
You have a clear destination in mind, right? The road is open,
Yeah.
and you are just pressing your foot down on the gas pedal. But um, there's a major mechanical problem.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, your other foot is slammed completely down on the brake.
Oh man, that creates a tremendous amount of unseen friction. I mean, you are burning through fuel, tearing up the engine block, generating all this heat, and yet,
You're barely moving.
right, despite all that intense energy expenditure, you are barely inching forward.
Exactly. You know exactly where you want to go, but you are quite literally wearing yourself out, fighting your own resistance.
Yeah.
So welcome to this deep dive. Today we're putting on our self-development coaching hats, I guess you could say.
I like it.
Yeah, to focus on a concept that every single one of us struggles with, especially in our professional lives. But very few of us actually understand it on a mechanical level, and that is self-sabotage.
It's a huge topic.
It really is.
Yeah.
So we are unpacking Brianna Wiest's book, The Mountain Is You, to kind of extract a toolkit that helps you handle life and work challenges with, a lot more grace and self-mastery.
Yeah, and to set the foundation for this, we really have to completely reframe how we view the obstacles in our careers and personal lives.
Okay, how so?
Well, the core premise we are working with today is that the mountain you are facing, that seemingly insurmountable challenge blocking your path,
Right.
it isn't a toxic corporate culture, it isn't a volatile economic market, and it isn't a difficult partner. The mountain is the block between your conscious desires and your unconscious fears.
So the mountain is...
The mountain is you.
Wow. Okay, which brings us back to the car on the highway, I guess.
Exactly.
To stop riding the brake, we have to figure out why our foot is jammed down on it in the first place. Because, on the surface, self-sabotage just looks like masochism.
Right, it looks crazy.
Yeah, it looked like a lack of discipline or laziness, or maybe even like a subconscious self-hatred.
Yeah.
You want the promotion, but you procrastinate on the quarterly report.
Yeah.
You want to save money, but you blow your paycheck on, discretionary things.
Right, on random stuff online.
Yeah. It just begs the question of why we intentionally hurt our own prospects.
Well, the source material fundamentally shifts that perspective, and this is key. Self-sabotage is not self-hatred.
Okay.
It is not a flaw in your character or a lack of willpower. It is actually a highly intelligent, albeit maladaptive, coping mechanism.
A coping mechanism.
Yes, your subconscious mind is designing these behaviors to fulfill an unfulfilled need or to protect you from an irrational fear. You aren't trying to hurt yourself. You are actually trying to keep yourself safe.
Man, that reframes things entirely. So it's not that the engine is broken, it's that the internal defense system is just working a little too aggressively.
Exactly. There's a brilliant story in the book about a young Carl Jung that illustrates this perfectly.
Oh, I love this one.
Yeah, it's so good. So when Jung was a child, he fell down at school and hit his head. It was a painful accident. But in that fleeting moment, a thought flashed through his mind, yes, maybe I won't have to go back to school now.
Because he hated school, right?
He actually hated school. He felt totally alienated. So shortly after that fall, he began experiencing these sporadic, uncontrollable fainting spells.
Wait, really? He was fainting as a physiological response just to avoid the classroom.
Subconsciously, yes. He
Wow.
developed what he later called a neurosis. He made an unconscious association between fainting and escaping a situation where he felt deeply uncomfortable.
That is wild.
It is. He later realized that these neuroses are essentially substitutes for legitimate suffering. His brain found a way to give him what he needed, which was avoiding school, without him having to consciously confront the actual social problem.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second.
Well.
Applied to our lives today, that implies that when we sabotage a relationship, maybe what we really need is to establish autonomy, but we're too terrified to communicate that boundary.
Yeah.
Or we sabotage a career milestone because deep down we want to pivot to a different industry entirely, but we are paralyzed by the fear of losing our current status.
Spot on. That underlying fear often revolves around a concept Gay Hendricks calls the upper limit.
The upper limit.
Yeah. We all have a baseline tolerance for happiness, success, and peace. Your brain has a homeostatic impulse. Just like it regulates your body temperature to keep you physically stable at 98.6 degrees, it regulates your emotional state to keep you psychologically stable in whatever state feels familiar.
So when things get unusually good, the emotional thermostat kicks on to cool things down.
Exactly. Anything outside that comfort zone, even an incredible streak of success, registers to the primitive brain as unfamiliar, and unfamiliar equals dangerous.
Right.
So when you start to surpass your upper limit, your subconscious will initiate behaviors to bring you back down to a baseline that feels predictable.
But wait, I need to challenge this a bit, though. I get that the brain likes the familiar, but how do we distinguish between our brain sabotaging a good promotion because of an upper limit problem versus our brain correctly identifying that this new executive role is genuinely toxic and will just ruin our health?
That's a great question.
Like, where is the line between self-sabotage and self-preservation?
That is the crucial distinction to make. So self-preservation is rooted in objective, observable facts. You look at the executive role and see that the last 3 people in that position burned out in 6 months. And, the CEO is known for screaming at staff.
Right, yeah.
Choosing to walk away from that is self-preservation. Self-sabotage, however, is rooted in unexamined narratives and identity. It's when the new role is objectively a great supportive opportunity, but you start showing up late or missing deadlines because an internal voice says, I'm not smart enough for this, and they are going to find out I'm a fraud.
Oh, I see. It's the internal narrative versus the external reality.
Precisely. We carry deeply embedded negative associations that dictate that narrative.
Yeah.
Let's take wealth, for example. If you grew up in an environment where you constantly heard things like, money changes people or success makes you a target, your brain internalizes that as a survival rule. Your self-concept is built on being a good or humble person.
Right, because rich people are bad in that narrative.
Exactly. So when you start making real money, your brain sounds the alarm. It says, danger, if we get rich, we become corrupt. We will be hated and ostracized.
Wow. So to protect my identity as a good person, I will unconsciously create a financial crisis.
Yep.
I'll make a terrible investment or ignore my tax obligations. My foot slams on the brake to save my identity, soothing the anxiety by putting myself back into a familiar state of financial lack.
You soothe the acute anxiety of the unfamiliar by returning to the chronic but manageable pain of what you know.
Which makes me wonder how these behaviors actually manifest in the modern workplace. Because I imagine it's not always as obvious as just lighting your career on fire.
Oh, no, it's rarely that obvious.
It's likely disguised as productivity, right?
Yeah. It is frequently disguised as ambition. The source identifies several key symptoms, and they are behaviors many professionals actively pride themselves on.
Being chronically busy comes to mind immediately from the text.
Yes.
In corporate culture, busyness is a massive badge of honor. People love to humble brag about being overwhelmed, triple booked, and buried in emails like, oh, I'm so slammed this week.
Right. Everybody says that. But the book points out a hard truth. Nobody is busy unless they want to be busy.
Oof, that's a tough pill to swallow.
It is, but being perpetually overscheduled is the ultimate way to distract ourselves from what is fundamentally wrong in our lives. It exhausts the central nervous system, so you can only focus on the immediate task in front of you.
Oh, I see.
If you are constantly running from meeting to meeting, putting out artificial fires, you never have to sit in silence and confront the terrifying realization that you are deeply unfulfilled by your career path.
It's an evasion tactic.
Yeah.
You use exhaustion to numb the deeper dissatisfaction. And then there's perfectionism, which operates similarly, I think. We like to tell ourselves that perfectionism just means we have high standards.
Right. We reframe it as a positive.
Yeah, but the source argues that perfectionism has nothing to do with the quality of the work. It's a shield against vulnerability.
Yes.
If I never finish the presentation because the formatting isn't perfect, I never have to face the reality of actually delivering it and having my ideas critiqued.
Exactly. You're hiding behind the font choices. Another symptom that masquerades as ambition is what the author calls uprooting.
Uprooting, okay.
This is the serial entrepreneur who pivots to a new business model every 6 months, or the professional who changes cities and jobs the moment things get difficult. On the surface, they reframe this as agility or a pursuit of growth.
But underneath, they're just running away from the friction.
They are only comfortable with the romantic process of sprouting. They are terrified of the mundane, repetitive discomfort required to put down deep roots and actually bloom.
That is such a great metaphor.
Right. They avoid the vulnerability of long-term attachment and accountability by constantly seeking a fresh start where expectations are low.
It's the illusion of forward momentum.
Yeah.
If we are diagnosing these behaviors, we also have to look at the emotional engine driving them, because we usually view negative emotions like jealousy or anger as moral failings that need to be suppressed.
Right, like we shouldn't feel them.
But the source suggests treating them as raw data points.
And this is a major shift in emotional intelligence for any professional. Emotions are not absolute truths dictating your reality, but they are highly accurate messengers detailing your internal state. Take jealousy.
Okay, let's talk about jealousy.
We frequently mask jealousy as moral judgment.
Yeah.
We criticize a colleague who got a promotion by saying, they just played office politics.
Oh, totally. Dave only got that VP spot because he golfs with the boss.
Exactly. But jealousy is actually a map. It shows you exactly what you secretly desire, but aren't allowing yourself to pursue.
Wow. If I genuinely didn't want the leadership role they got, I wouldn't feel the sting.
Exactly.
The anger I feel is just misdirected ambition.
And consider anger itself. We confuse healthy anger with aggression, which is its destructive shadow side. But healthy anger is transformative. It is your internal alarm system defining your boundaries.
Right.
When you feel anger, it is highlighting exactly what you find unjust or unacceptable, mobilizing you to initiate unnecessary change.
That brings up a really common piece of advice that can be confusing, though.
Yeah.
People always say, trust your gut.
Oh, yeah.
But if my gut is terrified of negotiating a higher salary, how do I know if that's a true instinct warning me away from overplaying my hand or just my brain sabotaging me with an irrational fear of rejection?
The book draws a sharp functional distinction here. Instinct only responds to the present moment. Your true gut instinct is usually a quiet, calm, and gentle clarity.
Okay.
Fear, on the other hand, projects entirely into the future. It is loud, panicked, chaotic, and accompanied by a rush of adrenaline.
So if you are sitting at the negotiation table and the other party suddenly changes the terms of the contract, your instinct is the immediate quiet clarity that says, walk away. This is wrong.
Yes.
But fear is lying awake at 2 a.m. 3 weeks prior to the meeting, sweating over a dozen different scenarios where they just laugh in your face.
That is a perfect illustration. And that future casting leads to a dangerous cognitive bias the author calls psychic thinking.
Psychic thinking.
This is when we assume that our worst-case scenario physiological feelings are actual predictions of the future. We think, I feel terrified about this career move, therefore it must be a disaster waiting to happen.
We mistake our anxiety for a crystal ball.
Exactly. But your feelings are not fortune-telling mechanisms. They are just a reflection of your current state of nervous system arousal.
Okay, so once we realize we are projecting fear and riding the brake, the question becomes how to change the behavior without causing a total system failure. Because just ripping your foot off the brake at 100 miles an hour feels like it would cause a massive crash too.
Oh, it absolutely would. To understand how to actually implement change, we first have to understand the mechanics of desire, specifically the dopamine cycle.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We're a fairly well-informed audience here, and most of us have heard the mainstream science on dopamine, the whole idea of dopamine detoxes and pleasure centers. We tend to think of it as the reward chemical. You close the deal, you get a hit of dopamine.
Right, but the source material clarifies a crucial nuance that often gets overlooked. Dopamine isn't actually the molecule of reward or contentment. It is the molecule of more.
The molecule of more.
Yes. It is the chemical that drives anticipation and acquisition. It gives you the pleasure of wanting something, not the peace of having it.
Which explains why reaching a massive goal, like getting the corner office or hitting the revenue target, so rarely brings lasting peace.
Exactly.
You cross the finish line, the anticipation ends, the dopamine drops off, and instead of feeling satisfied, your brain immediately starts scanning the horizon for the next mountain to climb.
And what follows that drop-off is what the book calls adjustment shock.
Adjustment shock, okay.
Because you've spent months or years in a physiological state of wanting, striving, and fighting, your nervous system doesn't know how to exist in a state of having and thriving.
Wow.
You achieve the goal and immediately enter hypervigilance. You become terrified of losing what you just gained.
I could actually relate to this personally. I remember when I got my first real management role.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I had worked so hard for it, but the moment I got the title, I was so terrified of failing that I started micromanaging my best employee to the point of driving them away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I told myself I was just maintaining high standards. But looking back, it was pure adjustment shock. Success felt too foreign, so my brain manufactured a crisis to return to the familiar feeling of putting out fires.
You pushed the success away to regulate your nervous system.
Exactly.
So, how do we bypass this biological shock? We don't do it through massive, sweeping life overhauls that trigger the amygdala's threat response. We do it through microshifts.
Microshifts. It's so easy for us to fall into the trap of waiting for a Hollywood-style epiphany, I think.
Oh, we all do it.
Yeah, we think we're going to wake up one morning, the clouds will part, and we'll suddenly be highly disciplined, perfectly balanced professionals.
But the book argues that massive breakthroughs are actually just the visible tipping points. The real foundational change comes from tiny, boring, almost undetectable microshifts.
Like what?
It is the law of the harvest applied to self-development. If you want to change your life, you restructure your daily habits in tiny increments that fly under the radar of your brain's threat detection system. The source uses a mathematical analogy. If you spend $10 on coffee today, it doesn't ruin your finances. But $10 daily over 50 years at 5% compounding interest grows to over $800,000.
Wow.
Microshifts are the compound interest of self-development. You don't attempt to overhaul your entire physical health in a weekend. You start by drinking half a cup of water every morning. You don't try to read a book a week. You read one single page before bed.
Because by keeping the action small, the brain doesn't view it as a threat to its homeostasis.
Exactly.
Like if I tell my brain, we are overhauling our entire departmental strategy today, it floods me with the resistance and procrastination. But if I say, we are going to outline 3 bullet points, the brain allows it.
Right. And implementing these microshifts requires mastering a core rule of self-development. You must learn to take action before you feel motivated to do it.
Okay, that's huge.
You cannot wait for inspiration. Emotions are wired to seek comfort and conserve energy. If you wait until you feel like doing the hard work, you will be waiting forever. You have to disconnect your physical action from your emotional state.
And this transitions into the concept of anti-fragility, which I think is a necessary mindset shift if we want to sustain those microshifts.
Absolutely.
The idea is that the human mind actually needs adversity and friction to grow, the same way a muscle needs weight resistance to build tissue.
Yes. Anti-fragile systems don't just survive pressure, they require it to become stronger. If you attempt to shield yourself from all professional and personal challenges, like if you refuse to step out of your comfort zone, your brain is going to compensate.
Right.
It requires stimulation and problem solving to function. So if there are no real problems, it will invent fake problems to solve.
That makes total sense in a workplace context. If a manager isn't challenging themselves with deep strategic work or taking calculated risks, their brain is going to sit at a desk and manufacture anxiety.
Yep.
They start helicopter managing their team, inventing office politics, or obsessing over what a harmless email from a colleague really meant.
They create artificial chaos because they are starving for real challenge. You will battle your own mind forever if you don't give it a worthy external mountain to climb.
But you can't just flip a switch to become anti-fragile if your nervous system is still stuck in the past, right? Like reacting to a failure from a decade ago. We have to clear out the emotional baggage that's keeping the emergency brake engaged. That brings us to the practical toolkit from the book.
The first and arguably most important tool is learning how to heal root trauma. The book offers a psychological exercise for releasing old experiences that are keeping you stuck. You have to mentally re-enter the memory of the traumatizing event.
Walk us through the mechanics of this. How does visualizing the past actually change anything in the present?
Well, it relies on the neurological process of memory reconsolidation. Every time you recall a memory, the neural pathway holding that memory becomes temporarily unstable or plastic. It can be altered.
Oh, interesting.
So you visualize the past event, but you superimpose a new narrative while the memory is plastic. You imagine your older, healed, present-day self entering that memory, sitting down next to your younger self, and giving them the exact instructions and physical reassurance they desperately needed in that moment but didn't get.
Wow.
By applying a feeling of safety to the traumatic memory, you actually rewire how your brain stores it.
Okay, so how would we apply this to a specific professional trauma?
Let's hear one.
Say someone was unexpectedly fired from a toxic company a few years ago. It was humiliating, and now they are completely paralyzed by imposter syndrome at their new, healthy job, just terrified the rug is going to be pulled out again.
The book outlines a vital rule for this exact scenario. You must restore safety in the exact area of the trauma.
The exact area.
Yes. Many people try to overcompensate in completely unrelated areas of their lives, They get fired, so they try to regain a sense of control by obsessively restricting their diet, or they spend 3 hours a day at the gym.
Right.
But you cannot heal career trauma with a revenge body. You heal job trauma by reestablishing tangible financial and professional safety. You update your resume, you build a backup career plan, you start a side gig, you build a 6-month emergency savings fund.
You prove it to yourself.
Yes, you prove to your nervous system with objective reality that even if you lose the job, you will still survive.
You treat the root, not a random branch. I love that. That grounds the psychology in such actionable steps. And it ties directly into another visualization tool the source suggests, operating as the CEO of your life.
Yes. Stepping into the role of your highest potential future self requires a shift in how you make decisions. A competent CEO doesn't run a Fortune 500 company based on how they happen to be feeling on a random Tuesday morning.
Right. Hopefully not.
They run the company based on established principles. The source makes a hardline distinction between inspiration and principles. Inspiration is an emotion. It is fleeting. It is a chemical sugar rush.
Inspiration is watching a motivational video at midnight and deciding you are going to launch a massive startup the next morning, only to abandon the idea by lunch.
Precisely. Principles are objective laws of cause and effect. To grow consistently, you need principles. If you have cash flow problems, making more money won't fix it if your habits are poor. You need financial principles, like living below your means. If you have relationship problems, finding a new partner won't fix the underlying dynamic. You need relationship principles, like not relying on external validation for your total sense of self-worth. You must prioritize enduring principles over temporary inspiration.
Which perfectly sets up the final piece of this toolkit, redefining the authentic glow-up. In modern culture, a glow-up is almost entirely performative.
Oh, absolutely.
It's about proving people wrong. It's getting the perfect physique, the flashy car, the high-status vice president title, just so you can post it online to make everyone who ever doubted you feel jealous.
But the book points out the fundamental flaw in that revenge mindset. If your entire transformation is designed to impress or spite people from your past, you are still allowing those people to control your life.
Yeah.
You are still orbiting their opinions and seeking their validation.
So the real glow-up is entirely authentic. It is prioritizing your own internal peace over someone else's external perception. You know you have truly healed. You know you have achieved self-mastery when you are so deeply content with your present reality and your future trajectory that you stop thinking about the people from your past entirely.
Exactly. You realize that trying to prove them wrong was really just a coping mechanism to quell your own disappointment in yourself. True healing isn't loud and performative. It is quiet, internal, and profound.
We started this deep dive talking about driving a car with the emergency brake engaged. The ultimate takeaway here is that self-mastery isn't about severing the brake line or pretending you don't have fears and emotions. It's about validating how you feel.
Right.
Acknowledging that, yes, I'm terrified of this new presentation or this new relationship, while retaining absolute principle-based control over your behavior. You feel the fear, you understand why it's there, but you consciously take your foot off the brake anyway.
Because a good life is built from the inside out. The mountain in front of you, the self-sabotage, the resistance, the fear, it is not a punishment from the universe. It is a diagnostic tool. It is the exact catalyst you need to show you where your unhealed wounds are. And it provides the exact resistance required to build your mental strength.
I want to leave everyone with one final provocative thought from the source material to mull over today. We've talked extensively about how much of our self-sabotage is driven by the fear of judgment. The book refers to this as the spotlight effect. It's a cognitive bias that makes us believe everyone is constantly watching, evaluating, and judging our every success and failure. We build entire mountains of self-sabotage and perfectionism just to protect ourselves from the opinions of others.
Yeah.
But here is the objective reality. Nobody is watching you.
No.
Everyone is completely consumed with worrying about themselves, standing under their own imaginary spotlights. So my question to you is this. If you truly internalize the reality that nobody is actually analyzing your life, what would you do tomorrow morning if you knew you were completely invisible to judgment? It's time to take your foot off the brake.